Inbound versus outbound. Which should you be using for your business? Firstly, we need to clear up the differences between these two because there's been a lot of confusion here over the past few years as marketing has evolved. You've currently got two different schools of thought. Purists will argue that inbound marketing only includes things like search engine marketing, SEO, or other forms of organic marketing, and that anything else, including paid ads, would come under outbound because you're going directly out to your audience. However, another school of thought is that outbound is when you're directly reaching out to people through cold email, cold calling, that kind of thing. And inbound is any digital marketing activities you're doing to bring someone to your website to lead to a conversion, whether that be a paid ad campaign, whether it be SEO, whatever it is, where you're driving people through to your website to get them to take an action, versus reaching out to people directly to book a call or to get them to take that next step. But for the purpose of this video today, I'm going to be defining outbound as more of an outreach in terms of cold email, cold calling, cold LinkedIn messages, that kind of thing. And inbound is going to be any form of digital marketing where you're driving users to your website, whether that be through SEO or paid advertising. So now that we've got that cleared up, let's talk about outbound. The first thing you need to bear in mind of outbound is there are really two forms of doing outbound marketing. You have what's called intent-based outbound, which is where you're using intent data. So this might be somebody looking up a certain piece of software on review aggregation platforms like G2. It might be that somebody has signed up to a particular mailing list of some form, where you are then buying in that data and those signals that show it's the right time or potentially the right time to reach out to this person because they are exhibiting buying signals. You then have a more scattered form of outbound, which is what most businesses use, where you just acquire a list of all of your target customers and target audience, and you start doing outbound campaigns to them. Again, whether that be through cold calling, LinkedIn messages, or whatever it might be. Now, naturally, you would think that intent-based outbound sounds like a better place to start, but the reason a lot of businesses don't use this is because the cost can often be quite prohibitive, especially when you're buying in data from third-party providers. There are certain platforms you can use for this, but they will often charge in the region of several $1,000s a month, so it can make it quite prohibitive, especially for smaller businesses or startups. The obvious downside you've got with a more scattergun approach is even though you might have a list of your ideal customers, you have no idea what stage of the buyer journey they're at. They might not even be looking to buy your product or service at this stage, or they might have just recently gone and signed up to a 2-year contract with another provider. You just have no idea because you're not going based on signals, you're just going based on your audience. So with a more scattergun approach, it really comes down to being a numbers game. Let's say you've got a list of 10,000 people, there's probably only ever going to be about 1% of that list at any given time who is actually in the market to buy right now. And that's not to say you can't improve your odds of getting a response, because you absolutely can through optimizing the campaigns and optimizing the messages, the offer you're putting forward to the market. But it is important to be aware of the differences between these two approaches. So now let's talk about inbound. Now, the way I see it, there are also two different types of inbound marketing that I typically see people doing. One is you will either have a full funnel inbound marketing system whereby you have content that is strategically placed across different platforms, whether that be on your website, whether it be on social media channels. Each bit of content is strategically targeting the different stages of the funnel, from people at the top of funnel, so they're very, very early on in the buyer journey, maybe they're just problem aware, to the middle of funnel where they're more solution aware now, so they know solutions exist, to then eventually creating content that targets bottom of funnel, so people who maybe even know about your product or service and they just need an offer now to get them over the line, or a clear, compelling call to action. What most businesses do with their inbound marketing, though, is they try to go straight after the bottom of funnel. The downside to that is you very quickly end up becoming commoditized, and especially if you are a smaller business or there's market leaders in the space you're operating in, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to stand out if you haven't previously established some trust and credibility with your audience, because why the hell would they trust you over the bigger players out there who have probably got way more credibility than you have? However, the downside to taking a more full funnel marketing approach, naturally, as you can imagine, is that's going to take time, right? Because you have to create lots of different content for each stage of the funnel. You'll want to create lead nurture campaigns, lead magnets, maybe webinars, blog content, articles, thought leadership posts to really establish yourselves as true experts in the space that you're operating in to build that trust over time. So you can see there's clear pros and cons to both of these. However, there is also a third option here which can be incredibly powerful, a hybrid approach. So this would be where you use your own first-party signal data that you get in from an inbound marketing strategy to then feed into an outbound marketing strategy. So a perfect example of this is that you might be running ads to a particular topic, a particular pain-based webinar. You could then use either website visitor data with tools and software like Clearbit or Lead Forensics. You can also do this with ads on platforms like LinkedIn, where LinkedIn will actually allow you to now see the exact companies who have been viewing and engaging with your ad campaigns. So if you see that there are particular company names where they have shown a lot of engagement, maybe they're watching through your videos or they've clicked on an ad multiple times, you can then take that as a signal to being a good time to reach out to them. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be ready to buy, but it warms up that outreach, so you're much more likely to get a response because that company has already seen your ad, so there has already been a level of trust and credibility there. So what this will do by having this hybrid approach is going to allow the pros of both of these approaches to feed into each other and just make everything you're doing much more effective and much more powerful. And it's also worth bearing in mind, you don't have to do everything at once, right? For a lot of businesses, it might make sense to start with a more scattered outbound strategy. Then maybe you want to allocate a small bit of budget when you start getting some initial traction in toward just warming up an inbound strategy. So by phasing these things out as to what makes sense for your business with the position you're in right now, you'll be able to do this in a more strategic way. It's also worth saying here, as much as you might see a lot of these gurus talking about how cold calling is dead or cold email is dead or paid ads are dead or whatever else is dead these days, it simply isn't the case. And from what we've seen working with thousands of businesses in all kinds of different industries, pretty much all of these platforms can work. It's just going to depend on your target audience. Some people might be more receptive to email. Others, maybe they spend all day on LinkedIn. For others, maybe direct mail is even a better strategy. It's really going to come down to what makes sense for your audience. So this is where, when it comes to picking the right channels, whether you are doing inbound or outbound, knowing your audience is absolutely critical. So in this next video coming up, I'm going to be showing you how to find the best places to reach your target audience. I'll see you there.